Hello my fellow Ebinskis, today's video is a very special one. I'll solve the Lupin III timeline. Why are you looking at me like that? But anyways, we're gonna mostly ignore the movies though, mostly, one exception. We can save the movies for another video, but some, like Mystery of Momo, can help us with the timeline. So anyways, let's begin. So, right off the bat, parts 1 through 3 are in a different continuity than 4 through 6. I say this for a multitude of reasons. I'd say the best Doyleist reason is that part 4 was meant to be a reboot, and for a Watsonian reason, screw off. So I'll need to determine Lupin's age in all parts. Let's start with part 1. I know Lupin III is normally seen as mid to late 20s, but in part 1, which takes place in 1972, I will put him at 20 years old. This means he would have been born in 1952. You might wonder, why put his birthday as 1952? You see, in Lupin III, the prequel story to Lupin III, it is mid-1960s era Japan, and Lupin is about 13, and he is implied to have been born in the 50s, and 13 plus 52 equals 65. Proud of my math skills at all? That gives us a better frame to work with. Now, to map his age along the timeline, I'm going to call timeline A as Lupin 0 plus parts 1 through 3. Lupin is 13 in 0, which is 1965, which is not guaranteed to be 1965, but 1965 is the most comfortable year to put it in. So, therefore he's 20 in part 1, 1972. Now for part 2, which is where Lupin wears the red jacket. It's hard to determine when part 2 is on its own, but we do have a movie we can look at. So yeah, we do have to look at one movie, The Mystery of Momo, which we know takes place in part 2, which is canonically after part 1, just in case you didn't know. If we rely on the date it was released, then it takes place in 1978. By that logic, Lupin is 26 in part 2. In part 3, it is mentioned that Lupin and Jigen have been working together for 15 years. So, contrary to popular belief to Lupin fans, part 3 actually takes place in 1980, just 1980 flat. I got the year 1980 by adding 15 to 65. This makes Lupin 28 in part 3. I know it was animated after 1980, but guess what? You can set things in the past when you're making a fictional series. So this is where I'm going to leave timeline A here for now, and now for timeline B. Starting in part 4, we have a new rebooted Lupin. Yet again, we don't have an exact time frame for it, but if we go on release date, it should be around the year 2015 in Italy, and also San Marino. Now, I just have to determine Lupin's birth year in timeline B. I'm going to assume he's 25 for the sake of easy math. This means he was born in 1990, making him a millennial, just thought you should know. Timeline B is essentially smooth sailing. Part 5 takes place shortly after part 4, Lupin's jacket color is still the same, and in this case, Lupin is anywhere from 26 to 28 years old. Now is where we get a bigger skip in time. Lupin III, Part 6. Part 6 isn't very clear about when it takes place, either, but we do see modern technology, hear about modern issues. We cannot do much other than go by release date, therefore it likely takes place in 2021 or 2022, making Lupin 31 or 32. So the video is over, right? No, because we have an entire different anime IP to fit into the Lupin timeline. Yay! That being Aria the Scarlet Ammo. You might wonder, where the hell am I going with this? And I promise to you that I am onto something. I'm not on something, I'm onto something. Aria the Scarlet Ammo is a girls with guns harem anime where a bunch of lollies use guns to solve crimes? That's weird. So anyway, there's a character named Riko Mine, but her actual full name is Riko Mine Lupin IV. I wonder if that gives anything away. How can we be sure that she's actually Lupin's child, though? First of all, look at her damn name. Second of all, she's stated to be 3/4 Japanese and 1/4 French. Fujiko Mine is entirely Japanese. Lupin III is half Japanese and half French, so that lines up. And knowing her fondness of weapons, and the fact we know she descends from Arsène Lupin, the original, it makes sense that she would be Lupin III's child. So now, where does Aria the Scarlet Ammo fall on the timeline? Is it timeline A or B? It's timeline A. Rico Mine's canon birthday is March 31st, 1993, which would make Lupin in timeline A 41 by the time she is born. Lupin in timeline B would only be 3 years old, and although 41 is old to have a child, at least it's actually possible. So this puts Aria the Scarlet Ammo in timeline A. It also takes place in 2009, I think. I don't know, that's what the wiki says. Sadly, in timeline A, both Lupin III and Fujiko Mine end up dead because we know Rico's parents died somewhere around 1999. I've not seen the anime, I'm just going off of what the timeline says on the wiki. So it seems like we've hit the end of the timelines. Timeline A starts at Lupin 0 and goes all the way up to Scarlet Ammo. Timeline B is much shorter, just being parts 4 through 6. Now, my final reasons on why I separated the timelines, A and B, rather than just saying that Lupin doesn't age. It would make zero sense for Lupin not to age. We see him as a child in Lupin 0. Lupin also never acknowledges being youthful forever. Nobody else ages or mentions age in that sense either. Part 4 is clearly a reboot and start of a new continuity, and that's why it's in its own timeline. And also, if Lupin never aged, then he still wouldn't be around for part 4 because he would have died in the backstory of Rico Mine, which takes place before parts 4 through 6. And oh yeah, no, just because Lupin has canonically worn a red jacket in timeline B in a flashback does not mean it's the same timeline. That's just frankly stupid. So it turns out Lupin III does have a continuity. 2 as a matter of fact. But anyways, I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day, and stay groovy.